You're lying in bed. Lights off. The room is quiet. But your mind? It's wide awake. Instead of drifting into sleep, you're suddenly the lead character in a scene that will never actually happen. Maybe you're standing in front of a room full of people, delivering the speech of a lifetime, the one that leaves everyone speechless, nodding, finally understanding you. Maybe you're finally saying the thing you should have said 3 years ago to that person who still occupies way too much rent in your head. Or maybe you've just discovered some hidden talent, some version of yourself that changes everything, and all the people who doubted you are watching. You run the scene, then you rerun it. You tweak the dialogue. Someone says something slightly different, so you rewind and redo the whole thing with a sharper comeback. You perfect the timing, the expression, the way the light hits your face. And at some point, somewhere in the middle of that private cinema, you finally fall asleep. If this sounds familiar, you're far from alone. Researchers call this paracosmic thinking, the creation of elaborate, self-directed mental narratives. But it's deeper than simple daydreaming. It's your brain doing what it does best, trying to make sense of your life through story. Psychologists have noticed that these pre-sleep scenarios usually fall into two emotional categories. The first bucket contains all the socially awkward or painful moments you left unresolved. The conversation that ended badly. The opportunity you didn't take. The thing you wish you'd said. The second bucket, and this one is especially interesting, is where you finally get what you felt you deserved. Respect, recognition, closure, justice. You win the argument. You get the apology. You're seen and understood exactly as you are. Let's slow down on that second one. When you replay a conversation where you finally say the perfect thing, you're not just being self-indulgent or delusional. Your brain is doing something it's literally built for. The period right before sleep, what scientists call hypnagogia, is one of the most unique states in your entire day. The rational, logical part of your brain starts powering down, but the emotional part is still very much online. In that narrow window, everything you pushed aside during the day starts rising to the surface. The argument you let slide, the compliment you never received, the braver, sharper, more confident version of yourself that didn't quite make it into the room that day. These mental movies aren't random. They're specific, detailed, and emotionally intelligent. They follow a kind of narrative justice, the kind real life often denies us. Because here's the truth. Humans are story-making creatures. We don't just experience events. We instantly turn them into narratives with a protagonist you, obstacles, villains, and a desired resolution. Daily life rarely gives us clean endings. Conversations fizzle out. Misunderstandings linger. You bite your tongue because it wasn't worth the energy. But your brain keeps the draft open. Pre-sleep imagination is where those drafts get edited, revised, and sometimes finally given the ending they deserve. This isn't escapism. It's identity maintenance. You're rehearsing who you want to be. You're reclaiming the moments where your real self didn't fully show up. The legendary psychologist Jerome Singer at Yale spent decades studying daydreaming and mental imagery. He found that people who regularly engage in positive, constructive fantasy, rich internal narratives that include emotional resolution, tend to score higher on emotional regulation, creativity, and problem-solving abilities. Far from being a sign of weakness or immaturity, these elaborate inner worlds often indicate a sophisticated relationship with your own inner life. That might be the first time anyone has called being the main character in your own head movie emotionally sophisticated, but the research backs it up. Now, let's talk about the darker side, because not every pre-sleep scenario is triumphant. Some nights, your mind rehearses the arguments you're afraid of losing, the breakup conversation you dread, the confrontation you know is coming, the worst-case scenario you keep preparing for, hoping that imagining it will somehow protect you. And then there are the quiet, aching ones, conversations with people you've lost, versions of relationships that fell apart. Except in this version, they don't. In this version, you're finally understood. You get the connection you always wanted. These scenarios carry a completely different emotional weight. They feel heavy, tender, sometimes devastating, but they're important. Sleep researchers have shown that emotional memory consolidation happens powerfully during REM sleep. The hypnagogic period before it seems to act as a preparation phase, your mind surfacing the things it needs to process. What feels like being stuck in your thoughts is sometimes exactly the mechanism that eventually helps you move forward. There's also a deeper social reason why some people have especially vivid inner worlds. Many of those with sprawling, cinematic mental lives grew up in environments where their emotional reality wasn't fully acknowledged. What they felt didn't match what they were allowed to express. So the internal world became the place where that gap was filled. You couldn't say it at the dinner table, but you could say it in the car, in the shower, or in the dark right before sleep. Over years, that interior space became incredibly rich and developed. The imagination wasn't an escape from life. It was life continuing underground, where it could finally breathe. And yes, let's acknowledge the comedic absurdity of it all. These scenes are often ridiculously cinematic. Full production value, dramatic lighting, perfectly timed lines. You walk into the room and the energy shifts. You drop one piece of information and everything changes. The person who underestimated you is left speechless. You've written, directed, and starred in your own private Oscar-worthy performance, one your actual mouth would never deliver with that level of precision in real life. The character you've created in these moments? They're kind of incredible, charismatic, brave, unapologetic, fully expressed. And that leads to the question that sits underneath all of this, the one most of us feel but rarely say out loud. Why can't the real version of me be more like that version? The answer isn't flattering to modern life. Most of us have become experts at managing how we come across. We edit ourselves in real time. We perform. We filter. We shrink. By the end of the day, the unfiltered, fully expressed version of who we are only gets to come out when no one is watching, when the lights are off and the performance is finally over. That person in your head, the one giving the speech, having the honest conversation, taking up space without apology, that person isn't fictional. They're you without the interference. So what do you do with that realization? Some people start getting curious about the gap between their inner and outer worlds. They begin experimenting, slowly, imperfectly, with closing it, saying the thing, taking up the space, letting small pieces of that nighttime version step into daylight. It's uncomfortable. It's messy. Sometimes it goes wrong. The real version is less polished, more awkward, more human. But it's real. And real actions compound in ways that imagined ones never can. The pre-sleep scenarios you run every single night aren't something to feel embarrassed about. They're a map. A remarkably honest map of what you actually want. Not what you've settled for. Not what you've convinced yourself is realistic. Not what you perform for other people. They show you who you wish you were allowed to be. The only question left is whether you're ever going to try living inside that map. Tonight, when the lights go off and the scene starts playing, try something different. Instead of just watching it, notice it. Pay attention to the one underneath. What is this scene really about? What truth has it been trying to tell you for months, maybe years? Because that inner voice, it's been speaking. Maybe it's time we started listening. Pause. Music swells gently. If this resonated with you, I put together something I think you'll find genuinely useful. In the description and pinned comment, there's a bundle of 7-day guides and planners designed for exactly what many of you are quietly struggling with. Clearing the mental backlog that keeps you up at night. Actually fixing your sleep instead of just thinking about it. Rebuilding your focus and rebalancing your dopamine in a world designed to scatter it. Each guide comes with specific daily actions, not just more information to consume. The link is in the description and pinned in the comments. I hope you check it out.